we are here. What's going on, everybody? Welcome to this week's episode of the Lopes Goes Last podcast. I, of course, am your host, Tyler Lopes. If you have not subscribed yet, please feel free to do so. Also, hit that bell icon so you never miss any one of my videos. Also, please feel free to share and like the video as well. And also follow me on Twitter at Lopes Goes Last and on Facebook at Lopes Goes Last podcast to stay up to date with everything that's going on. And if you do follow me on Twitter and Facebook, at this point, you will have known that this is a very special episode of the Lopes Goes Last podcast, and I'll allude to it in a little bit as well. But this is the first interview in the history of the podcast, and I'm very excited about it. I cannot wait for you guys to hear the conversation that me and Andy Riley, as well as Ryan Bruce, the two of my former colleagues and obviously still very good friends from Johnson University, where I went to college and where I played baseball, and we had so much fun. I mean, I cannot wait for you guys to see this. We had an absolute blast. They took a lot of time out of their days. It's very late. I'm recording this at about 2 o'clock in the morning Eastern Standard Time right now, and we just wrapped up a few minutes ago, and it was amazing. I mean, I had an absolutely amazing time, and I cannot wait for you guys to see it. Hopefully I'm going to be able to have them back on the podcast very soon. Once we did allude to it a little bit at the end of the podcast. Once baseball season starts, I'd love to, get them and maybe a couple more people on the podcast, at that point. But for right now, I just hope you guys really enjoy this episode of the podcast as much as I do. And so I will warn you, though, we did recorded this on Zoom, and usually I don't record these types of videos on Zoom. I use a different software, but with Zoom, the audio is a little bit weird at certain points. The video might not match the audio. Specifically, Coach Bruce's audio really started cutting out in certain areas, and I'm sure you'll see it. But there might be some hard edits, hard cuts that you'll see, and it's just because certain audio things just weren't working, and so we had to kind of stop and figure it all out. But it ended up working out pretty well. It worked out. It was a little bit better than I assumed that it would be, but still there were some issues that we ran into because there's always going to be some issues when you kind of do long conversations like this, but nonetheless, we still had a blast. It was just a great time, and I hope you guys enjoy. And with that, I will see you guys next time, and I'll take you there to the conversation between me, Andy Riley, and Coach Bruce. All right, guys, we are live here for what is a very special episode of the Lopes Goes Last podcast, and already there goes Bruce, and he comes back, but no, this is, again, a very special episode of the Lopes Goes Last podcast. It's the first interview round of the Lopes Goes Last podcast, so I'm very excited to bring that to you here. I have joining me today, I have pitcher for the Johnson University Royals, Andy Riley, and the head coach of the Johnson University Royals, Ryan Bruce. Gentlemen, thank you so much for joining us. How are you guys doing today?
Oh, we are so excited just to have, be here on the podcast. Royals took 2 dubs today, so we are in a great mood. Super excited to be here in the presence of Tyler Lopes himself. He's a former Royals legend as well. Just super pumped to get talking about some Braves baseball.
For sure. We'll go into a little bit more than Braves baseball, but we'll definitely get into that. I do want to start, obviously, by just, letting you know, guys, just be yourselves. Let's just have fun. This is just for us, right? We're just going to have some fun. We're going to have a good time. And hopefully we'll be able to talk about some good stuff too. So I do want to start out, obviously, I don't think it's right to start this podcast with 3 baseball lovers, such as ourselves anyway, other than, let's start talking about the lockout just a little bit. I don't want to get too much into it. I'm sure you guys have talked about it enough. We've all been sad about it enough. But what are your guys' thoughts on the lockout? And then just kind of steering that conversation to kind of make it a little more specific. Who do you think at this juncture is more to blame, the owners or the players? Andy, I'll start with you.
Who is more to blame? I personally have blamed the owners because
from what I've understood through like negotiation, how do negotiations work? It seems like whenever the players, go out there and present their case to, all the owners and, Manfred and all them, they, while both like viewpoints are like completely like, they have completely different visions for what they want, the end result to be. It seems like the owners just kind of walk away and don't negotiate and don't give the players like, a chance to even like try and find a compromise. And that's just not how negotiations work. Like, if I was out here to say, hey, Mr. Lopes, I think I deserve, to be paid $50 to be on this thing podcast, my thoughts.
I wish I was paid $50 to be on this podcast.
Yeah, exactly. Like, I would think that me and you would have a lengthy conversation, trying to find somewhere to meet in the middle. You wouldn't just, say, nope, and just walk away. Well, you probably would go find somebody else that, wouldn't be asking money to, be on here. But, in any kind of negotiation, like, you've got to, negotiate. You don't just, hear somebody out and say, well, that's not what my vision is, and just leave. Because then, stuff like this happens. And at the end of the day, the people want baseball. And if your, goal is to, grow baseball's fan base and, which is what he's claimed, like, one of his main objectives to be, spread, help grow the game of baseball to the kids, you should definitely be striving to have a season.
For sure. Bruce?
Yeah, this is going to probably be the first time I really agree with Andy in this whole podcast, but I do agree with him
probably the only time
about the negotiation part. Little does Andy know, Tyler Lopes is paying me $50 to be on this podcast.
Right, yeah. So, sorry, Andy, you missed out,
Yeah, but just kidding. But anyways, I do think that, like, yes, both sides are millionaires. One side are billionaires, but I think that they have to figure out a way to meet in the middle, and I think it comes down to the owners. So, and I do 100%. One of the big things that the Players Association is arguing about is the minor leagues, like the pay is really bad. The living arrangements are terrible for a lot of these guys. So I totally get that. But I'd also say this, like, and I could be totally wrong, but if they're that concerned with it, I mean, they're making all this money. Why don't they take a pay cut and help some of these guys out? So I think there's a lot of solutions to this. Yeah, I just think that they should be able to find a meet in the middle and find a solution to this problem so we can watch baseball again.
Yeah.
But if they do decide to cancel baseball forever, the Braves are world champions forever. So I'm okay with that too.
Exactly. My idea for a solution here, now this is a little crazy and maybe a little sociopathic, but I say you just lock Rob Manfred and Max Scherzer in a room and say, y'all are not leaving this room until y'all come to a compromise and we have a season. And just see what happens,
I don't think I honestly, Andy, I do like that idea, but I will say I don't think in that scenario that Rob Manfred is walking out that room unless his head's on a pike. Like, I think at this point, I think it was more likely that Max Scherzer would probably just kill him. The deal will get done.
Maybe you throw like, a bodyguard in there, just let Aaron Judge or somebody walk in there and be like, hey,
right. Yeah, that
supervise,
makes sense.
chaperone the whole thing.
Right.
Make sure that no heads end up on pikes. But
right.
At the end of the day, like, they just need to sit down until they come to some sort of compromise, because this little stop and go thing is not working, and it's really infuriating for everybody.
For sure. Bruce, you have anything else?
I'm good.
All right. Well, then we will move on to what I'm sure you guys are mainly here for. We'll talk a little bit about the Braves here. So I'm going to start. I'm going to just go right for it. I'm not going to beat around the bush here. you guys have obviously argued this before in your own personal lives, but now you're going to have it be put on the internet. So, say what you got to say. Don't hold back now. I'll start with you, Brucey, this time.
No. I want you to start with Mr. Riley.
Okay. We'll start.
Please.
Fine. We will start with Andy.
Please.
So, can the Braves win a World Series if they do not re-sign Freddie Freeman?
I am under the belief that, we need Freddie Freeman. He is our top priority for moving forward in this offseason. The reason behind that is because I really believe Freddie Freeman is the heartbeat of the Atlanta Braves team. He is like the spine. Without him, I feel like we crumble and fall apart. Way back in, I believe it was 2017, he got hit in the wrist with an air loop fastball, and, he was out for, I think, a month or two. I don't remember exactly how long. And the Braves genuinely had a rough little patch there. Like, we signed Matt Adams, and that worked all right, but it wasn't completely the same. And I can base this off of, we've kind of followed the same model with Chipper Jones way back when. Like, when I first, became a Braves fan, Chipper was always that one reliable, steady veteran that, all the young guys could, kind of gather around and learn from. And, he would never back down from the big stage. And in my vision, Freddie Freeman is that guy right now. A lot of people that do argue that we can go without him are operating under the impression that our young talent like Acuna and Ozzie Albies and Austin Riley is good enough on its own where we don't need him anymore. And I completely disagree with that statement, because as you saw with Acuna, we won a dang World Series without him for the last 3 or 4 months. When we lost him, I think we were either at 500 or a little bit below.
We
were below. Correct. I don't think Austin Riley is proven to be consistent enough yet to be, seen as a reliable replacement bat in the middle of the order that we know will be there for decades. And, Ozzie's Ozzie, but, he's not the same superstar status that those other two have, in my opinion. Mm-hmm. So I am under the belief that, and this is really speaking from the heart here, but we need Freddie Freeman. And what Mr. Bruce is going to go out here and say, he's going to go here and he's going to say, Andy, you're thinking with your heart and not your head here. And he's going to crunch some numbers.
You are.
All these things. But Brucey, here's what I'm going to say about this. Heart wins games more than the head does. Because if you look at the Braves for the past decade, what was the best team on paper? I would definitely argue the 2019 Braves probably were. We had all the incredible bats. We had a Freddie, we had Donaldson at the time, we had Ronnie, Ozzie, Dansby, even a Kurt Suzuki
at that time. Dansby. Okay, continue. We were setting on paper. Our rotation was better than it ever was in 2020 and 2021 when we won the dang thing. Like, we had Keuchel, Fried, Soroka, a healthy Soroka. We had Fulte that, was shoving at the time, when he allegedly, I think I saw now he abused his wife or something, and that's the thing. I don't know. I heard that from a coworker at Columbia the other day. And Julio Teheran, who was really underappreciated. Not to mention we had Melanson, Shane Green, Luke Jackson, our favorite. Love some Luke Jackson.
We were loaded on paper that year, and we didn't make it past the NLDS. And then we look at, this 2021 team that, didn't have as many big names, but, they played with heart, and they were able to win the games that counted. Therefore, Mr. Bruce, I would argue that you have to think with your heart more than your head in this situation. And my heart is telling me we need Freddie Freeman.
Are you done?
You have the floor now.
All right.
Do your work.
So first off, I'm not saying I don't want Freddie Freeman. Okay. I love Freddie Freeman. I think he's awesome. All right. I don't think we win that World Series without Freddie. Okay.
Yeah, you certainly don't.
However, he's what? He's 32 years old, about to be 33. Okay.
Something like that.
He wants 6 years. All right. Which will make him, depending on when his birthday is, either 38, 39. Okay. When that contract ends. Okay. And typically when teams do this, it's not worth their money. Okay. Let me give you a couple of examples. All right. I'm gonna give you the first one. I've told Andy this one multiple times. 2012. At this time, Albert Pujols was considered the best hitter in baseball. All right. He signed a 10-year, $240 million contract. All right. So when he signed, he since then he has had one All-Star season. Okay. And still in that season, he didn't hit above 244. Just didn't put up the same amount of numbers, and it wasn't worth the money, I don't think, if you go back and ask the Angels. All right. And the Angels made the playoffs one time during that time. All right. And I'm pretty sure the Cardinals ended up making the playoffs multiple times.
They went to the World
right.
Series the next year.
Yeah. So there's that one. And then here's another one. I haven't mentioned this one to Andy yet because I was saving it for him. All right. In 2016, all right, the Detroit Tigers, all right, re-signed Miguel Cabrera to an 8-year, $248 million contract. All right. Since then, in 2016, Miggy had an all-star year. All right. Since then, he's hit 249, 299, 282, 250, 256. And since that all-star year, he's hit 22 home runs, 11 home runs, 21, 4, and 16. Hasn't played over 136 games in any of those seasons. One season he played 38. Another season he played 57. So, and the Tigers, obviously, we know they're not very good, and they haven't made the playoffs since then either. So, and then both these teams, the Tigers especially, they thought with their heart, and look where it got them. The Angels, they just wanted to spend money, so they signed him and Josh Hamilton, and look where that got him. So I'm just saying, Freddie Freeman's a different type of hitter. I know that. But at the same time, you don't want to sign a man for 6 years and be stuck with that contract when you're going to have to, Acuna's going to ask for more money from that contract. You're going to have to re-sign Austin Riley. You're going to have to re-sign Dansby. You're going to have to re-sign Max Fried. All these guys. Soroka, if he ever pitches again. Then you're going to have to – Charlie Morton's probably done after this year. You're going to have to find another pitcher. Why not use this money to – instead of spending all that money for a guy for 6 years, why not go out and re-sign Jorge Soler, World Series MVP? Is he a streaky hitter? Heck yeah, he is. But we also have the DH, all right? Go sign an Eddie Rosario, I'm just saying. I don't know if it's the best decision out there to re-sign 32, 33-year-old Freddie Freeman. Even with the DH, Miguel Cabrera had the DH, Albert Pujols had the DH. I don't know if it will pay off for us in the long run.
You see, I don't think those are good comparisons, though, because Albert Pujols Albert Pujols primarily is primarily because he left if he stayed in St. Louis, I don't know if he declines as quickly as he would have when he went to LA.
He had the DH.
Listen here. Albert Pujols and Josh Hamilton fell off a cliff at the exact same time after the Angels picked them up. Think about every Angels free agent that has signed on with them, big money. You've got those two. You have Ian Kinsler. You have Rendon. They've all kind of fallen off a cliff as soon as they went to the LA Angels organization. Therefore, I kind of view that as just Anaheim being a place that, big hitters go to die as soon as they sign their big money. And I think Miguel Cabrera and Freddie while their hitting approaches are very similar, I think Freddie's character is a lot more reliable. Because keep in mind, Miguel Cabrera struggled with DUIs. Like as soon as he left Florida to Miami, there was a whole thing, I don't remember the exact details. I remember I was like 10 years old at the time. But, he had a lot of issues going on off the field, again, with the DUIs. You look at Freddie. All Freddie does in his spare time is he hangs out with Charlie and his new twins. Freddie is been taking care of himself a lot better than Miguel Cabrera is off the field. Therefore, Miguel Cabrera's decline should have been a little bit more expected out of the Tigers. Therefore, I view that as a poor investment, even though it is a good comparison. I had to go Google real quick and see how old Miguel Cabrera was in 2016 to see how good of a comparison this was. And Miggy was 33 in 2016, which is, very comparable to where Freddie's at now. While a lot add up, I would say Freddie's character makes him a bit more of a safe bet to maintain.
So you're signing after 6 years based off his character.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Okay.
I don't think that's a terrible investment.
Okay, so obviously both of you guys had really fantastic points. So if it's all right, I'd like to comment on obviously I'm not a Braves fan, so you guys take this with a grain of salt. This is just coming from somebody who's just a baseball fan and has watched his whole life and has seen just kind of how things have adapted and how big contracts have kind of played out, especially as a Red Sox fan. I have certainly seen my fair share of big contracts that have stunk. So I kind of can see the writing on the wall. And
Big Poppy was not one of them.
Big Poppy certainly was not one of them, but pretty much all the other ones were. So, other than like JD, and you can even say, now your point of like, okay, maybe 3 or 4 years is good, but 6 is too much. JD's was too long too, because now he's, now we're just trying to get somebody to replace him. We're not sure how he's going to perform this year. We'll see. I'm not that guy that's like, oh, he's going to fall off a cliff. I don't think that, but you never know. But anyway, no. So your point about Albert Pujols, Brucey, I see where you're coming from with that, but I think the thing that you are forgetting is that Albert Pujols, when he signed with the Angels, his birth certificate said that he was 30 years old, when it is pretty likely, considering all of the doctoring of birth certificates that was happening back then, that Albert Pujols was actually closer to 34 or 35, which would be 2 or 3 years older than Freddie Freeman. So if you do that math, you're probably going to get at least 4 good years out of Freddie. Because by the time Albert Pujols has really fallen off a cliff, he was 35, 36, around there. Now he's, 39 or 40, and he's probably actually like in his
41.
Okay, 41. Yeah. So now he's probably 45. And so I'm not sure that's the best comparison, considering he is a little bit, this obviously isn't something that I have like the birth certificate in my hand, but I know somebody who legitimately worked for the St. Louis Cardinals back then. And he looked me in the eye and said, nobody knows how old Albert is. There's not a single, the only person who knows how old Albert Pujols is Albert Pujols. He's the only one who knows, other than his like family, obviously. But like none of the teammates knew, none of the people nobody would say how old he was. So to me, I'm like, okay, he's not how old they say he is. Now, Miguel Cabrera, I think, is interesting because I do think that those are two very similar in terms of style players, like Andy was alluding to earlier. But I think I think the difference is between Miguel Cabrera and between Freddie Freeman is Freddie Freeman, his game does not solely rely on his ability to hit the ball out of the ballpark. And now prime Miguel Cabrera certainly did not rely on just hitting the ball out of the ballpark. But when you're a 34, 35-year-old Miguel Cabrera whose bat speed's not where it used to be, then you're going to have to rely on just kind of getting that one pitch and hitting it out of the ballpark. And also Miguel Cabrera really just cannot stay healthy anymore. You know, he's a liability against right-handed pitching. He can't hit the inside ball as well as he used to. And everything that I have seen about Freddie Freeman, watching the World Series, watching the playoff run, watching Braves games when I was at school with you guys, like, the guy can hit everything. He still can hit everything. Now, is this to say that he can hit everything for 6 years? 6 more years? I don't know. But I think for me, I completely understand why the Braves don't want to give him a 6-year contract. I still think they should. Because to me, Freddie Freeman, it's not about the player. It's about what the player means. And if Freddie Freeman leaves Atlanta, you're going to lose so many season tickets. Okay, let me say it this way. My wife knows virtually nothing about baseball. I love her to death, and she supported me in everything, and she supported you guys too. She loves you guys, but she's not the biggest, baseball person. The one player that she knows is Freddie Freeman. That's it. She, I've introduced her to some of the other Braves players. Like, you should maybe start getting invested into some of these other guys now, but like, she knows who Freddie Freeman is. And so when I told her Freddie Freeman might leave the Braves, she's like, well, and I don't care about the Braves anymore. And like, now I'm not saying that's right or wrong, but you're going to get a lot of that. You're going to get a lot of Freddie's not on the Braves anymore. What the heck? What's the point? Who do they even have? Which, of course, that's a dumb question. But for a generic baseball fan that doesn't really know, that's a fair question. So to me, I think that Bruce, you're right. The contract would not be worth it. Andy, you're right. I still think they should do it anyway. That's the way I look at it. I think that these big contracts, I think it's just more about loyalty at this point. And I completely understand Freddie not wanting to sign a 4-year contract because at this point he's done everything. He's won MVP.
I don't
won a championship. He's just like, I want a bag, dude. Like I want a crazy amount of money so I can support my family. I get it. So that's where I stand on that anyway.
Yeah, I mean, if I was in his shoes, like, why ask for a 4-year contract when you probably in back of your mind know I'm probably not going to put up those type of numbers to earn 2 extra years or whatnot. Get my 6, retire afterwards, and then I'm done. You're 100% right about that.
Yeah,
I don't want to be stuck with him if he is declining for that long. Take that chance, and I could be totally wrong, and he might be like an Adrian Beltre who hits his whole career, but I don't really I wouldn't want to take that chance when you could go get a Matt Olson who's 28, 29, sign him for a few years and roll with it, Yeah. I mean, Matt Olson's a Georgia boy right outside of Atlanta, went to Parkview High School. He'd be a perfect fit, I think, in Atlanta.
Sure.
So that's it.
That's actually a perfect segue into my next question. So I kind of want to do just a little bit. It's not a game necessarily, but it's kind of just like a different type of thing here. So I'm going to give 3 different scenarios, and I'm going to start with you, Andy, since that appears to be a theme here. And you're just going to say yes or no. And then once we're at the end, if your guys' answers differ and you want to debate it, feel free. If your answers are all the same, then cool, we'll move on. No worries. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to give you 3 different
yes
scenarios.
No explanation.
Yep, yes or no, no explanation to all 3. And then at the end, again, if you guys want to debate one of them, feel free. So Andy, I'll start with you.
All right.
Can the Braves win a World Series if Freddie Freeman is replaced with a league average or replacement level first baseman?
No.
Can the Braves win the World Series if Freddie Freeman is replaced with Anthony Rizzo? Just a straight swap. Freddie leaves in free agency. You sign Anthony Rizzo for a 1 or 2 year contract, whatever.
Yes.
Okay. Can the Braves win a World Series if Freddie Freeman does not re-sign, but they trade for Matt Olson? Without giving up any of their core pieces. So you don't give up like Acuna, Albies, Fried, Soroka, Dansby. You don't give up any of those guys, Austin Riley, but you trade for Matt Olson.
Assuming they're all healthy, that all those guys stay healthy, yes.
Okay. Bruce, I'm going to ask you the same 3 questions. Can the Braves win a World Series without Freddie Freeman if he is replaced with an average or replacement level first baseman?
Yes, they can.
Okay. Can the Braves win a World Series without Freddie Freeman if he is replaced by Anthony Rizzo?
They can win a World Series with Anthony Rizzo.
Gotcha. Okay. And then can the Braves win a World Series without Freddie Freeman if they trade for Matt Olson? I probably already know your answer to this, but
yes, they most definitely can.
okay. So the only answer that was different was Andy does not think the Braves can win a World Series if he's replaced with just a random everyday first baseman, just an average replacement level player, whereas you can. Or whereas you do think that, excuse me.
Mm-hmm. And I will, can I give you some examples why I think that can happen?
Absolutely.
Okay. All right. Obviously, the Dodgers won the 60-game World Series in 2020, right? Yes, they had Max Muncy / Cody Bellinger, whoever they wanted to put at first base. Those are 2 stud first basemen. Yes.
Mm-hmm.
All right. 2019, the Nationals won the World Series, and they had Howie Kendrick playing first base with Zimmerman or Matt Adams over there at times, right? Are they studs? They're league average at that time. Would you agree with that, Mr. Lopes?
Yeah. However, I will add that Howie
had
Kendrick did not play like he was a replacement level player in the World
Yes,
Series.
he did not. He balled out, but he was at that time a league average player going into
For
that
sure.
postseason.
Yeah, absolutely. Mm-hmm.
And then your Boston Red Sox. Y'all had
Steve
Mitch
Pierce,
Moreland
baby.
as Steve Pierce and Mitch Moreland, right? Yep. Was Steve Pierce a above league average before the World Series?
No.
Probably not. No. But he played well above league average in the postseason. So that is why I think they can win if you have the right pitching / bullpen and just other pieces to help win you a World Series. There you go.
Fair enough. Fair enough.
It's difficult to put some of those guys in like league. It's difficult to picture like a league average first baseman when you're hypothetically thinking about it. That Nationals team, they won the World Series with league average first baseman. They didn't win the division. The Braves won the division. And any team
won the World Series.
Any team is capable of going on a crazy postseason run when a Howie Kendrick starts playing like, he ended up doing. But you can't
kind of like the Braves.
Kind of like the Braves, but
like Jorge Soler.
Kind of like Jorge Soler. That's right.
Eddie Rosario.
But I mean, point being, like, I think Freddie gives us a better chance. Freddie, or a replacement like Rizzo or Olsen gives us a chance to win the division. And if we win our division, we're automatically in the play. I don't know what they're going to do to the playoffs. That's something they're talking about in that whole debate thing. But if you win your division, that increases your chances of winning the World Series significantly.
Gotcha.
Therefore, it's safer to bank on getting somebody you know is a sure thing than hoping that your league average guy catches fire at the right time and does what Steve Pierce or Howie Kendrick did.
I will say this. I think that whoever the Braves sign to be their first baseman needs to be a left-handed bat. I'll say that.
Gotcha.
I would agree with that statement wholeheartedly.
Yeah.
Fair enough. All right, so with that, I want to move on to football, if that's all right with you guys. So, obviously today, uniquely, I didn't plan on talking about this for the last, few days as I've been planning this, but it just kind of happened today. For those of you who had not heard, Calvin Ridley, the stud wide receiver for the Atlanta Falcons, was banned for at least one season because he was betting on games while he was out around November. If it's any consolation, he always
Hall of Fame.
What?
I said put Pete Rose in the Hall of Fame now.
Put Pete Rose in the Hall of Fame. Fair enough. No, but it's funny you bring that up. But it's very similar to that situation because they brought it up that he did always pick the Falcons to win, which Pete Rose kind of tried to use that famously as like a, make everybody feel better. Like I always pick the Reds to win,
Mm-hmm.
So anyways, no, but the question I want to bring up to you is obviously like, what are your guys' initial thoughts on that situation? Actually, you know what, this time, Brucey, I want to start with you, even though you're drinking. Sorry
Okay.
about that.
See, I mean, it doesn't bother me like that much. I would never ever, even as confident as I am, with my team. I don't even gamble on the Georgia Bulldogs or the Braves or any of my teams that I root for in general, but they are professional athletes and there are rules that they know that they have, and they're already making a ton of money. Also, Calvin, I'm a Falcons fan myself. Why are you betting on the Falcons? Brother, they're terrible. Why are you betting on them? It's not worth it.
I do want to say this. I do want to say this while I have you, Brucey. I do have to say, the Falcon. I don't know if you remember me saying this to you, but I actually told you I don't think the Falcons are going to win a game. Like I literally said to you, I think the Falcons are so bad. They have no offensive line. They have no defense. They have nothing. I don't think they're going to win a game. And they actually really overperformed, especially defensively, my expectations.
They had a chance to make the playoffs. Had some things happen going into the second to last week of the season.
I know, that's wild.
Yeah.
It's wild. And I'll tell you what, AJ Terrell really, really solidified himself this year as a Pro Bowl DB. Now, if I had known that was going to happen, I clearly would have said, okay, well, you guys are going to be fine because your defense is going to be slightly below league average. Any team that has a lockdown number one corner is going to be around league average just by default, just because that's just kind of how that works. But anyway, yeah, I wanted to tell you that to your face to say, hey, like, good on you guys, because I did not give the Falcons a lot of credit going into the season, but you guys actually overperformed. So cool, I guess.
Yeah. Well, appreciate that, Dr. Lopes.
Andy, what are your thoughts?
I mean, basically, very similar to Bruce. Like, you got to be a lot smarter than he was when you're Calvin Ridley and you're as important to the Falcons as he is, because he's a cog that I don't really think we can replace on offense. Like, yeah, we have, Kyle Pitts. Thankfully, we have Kyle Pitts now. When you said I was crazy for saying that, we needed to, go out and get him, but
I still think that you guys should not have picked him. Sorry.
Well, certainly, if we're having you said it was a whole year. This is the first I've actually heard about it here. You said he's gone for a whole year. Ridley's going to be incredibly difficult to replace.
At least.
At least.
Yeah. So he's banned for the entire 2022 season, and pending more, depending on how severe this actually ends up becoming. I have heard, that might be incorrect, but I have seen the headlines where it says at least the 2022 season. So
I saw his tweet. Did you see his tweet?
I did not.
He tweeted that Calvin Ridley himself tweeted that he said I only gambled $1,500. I don't have a gambling problem. That was his tweet.
I mean, I don't doubt that he doesn't have a gambling problem. I mean,
But you still got to be smarter than that because,
Yeah.
like, the whole reason that we were comfortable with losing Julio Jones last year is Calvin Ridley is on track to, be prime Julio Jones.
Well, I will say this.
I don't know about that.
I mean, we didn't really
I don't know about that,
miss
but
out on anything with Julio Jones because he was an older player and we didn't want to offer him a 6-year contract to have him at 39 years old, So I
like
will
it,
say
Brucey.
that. So, yeah.
Gosh, two completely different first baseman, far more consistent than wide receivers.
Just saying.
That's not a debatable thing. That's just a fact. But point being,
I was not comparing that to anything else. I was just saying I don't want a 39-year-old ball player past his prime. I don't want to deal with that. I don't want to pay him for 6 years.
I will say, Andy, on your comment real quick, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you, but saying that Calvin Ridley might be on track to be prime Julio Jones, I sincerely urge you. I don't know if you guys know about Secret Base, the YouTube channel. They do all these crazy sport videos. I absolutely love that they're one of my favorite YouTube channels to get information from and to just see really fun sport things. They actually did an entire retrospective documentary, 7 parts on the history of the Atlanta Falcons. So if you guys have not seen that, go check it out. It's amazing. They dove into Julio Jones's stats, and my father and I have had this conversation where when he was when he was going to get traded, obviously we're both Patriots fans, and Patriots are one of the teams that was heavily rumored for him to get traded to. And so he was like, do you want him? And I was like, I mean, he's getting up there in age, and he was great in his prime, but I don't know if he was that great. Like, I knew he was great, but I looked into his numbers. I mean, he may have had the best prime of any receiver that's ever played by just sheer yardage and touchdowns. Mm-hmm. Like, you're talking Randy Moss, Jerry Rice, and Julio Jones. Like, it's those 3 guys. And then maybe Antonio Brown in there somewhere. But even Calvin Johnson's numbers were not as good in his first 5 or 6 years. He didn't really start putting up those crazy numbers until year 5, 6, 7. His numbers were absurd. So,
right.
I'm not sure anybody's going to be prime Julio.
I think a better way to, word that is the role that Ridley was supposed to fill would be one that prime Julio would have. That current Julio probably, shouldn't at this point. That's probably a better argument. And, shoot, where was I even going with that before? Ridley's far too important to be doing stupid stuff like that. And if it's $1,500, think about how much pocket change that is to an NFL player.
Yeah.
Like, that would be like me betting 5 cents on Johnson baseball. And,
let's not do that.
And I'm not going to do that because I would,
You'd be suspended a whole year.
I would be suspended for a whole year, and I don't got a 6th year of eligibility coming up. So that would be I think
really I have one more, buddy. I'll give you one of mine. That's how that works, right?
Sure.
All right. No, perfect. So, I want to move on to a little bit more of a sensitive topic for you guys. So, doing a little bit of research before this podcast, I discovered. Let me see if you guys know the answer to this question right off the bat. Barring any kind of contractual changes and barring any kind of free agent signing that may happen in the offseason where this might change, who has the highest projected cap hit against their team's cap in the NFL for this upcoming year? Do you know who that player is?
It's Matt Ryan.
It is Matt Ryan. $49 million he will account for against the cap, unless, of course, they restructure his contract for this upcoming season. So, Matt Ryan's getting up there in age. He's probably what? I don't know his age. 37, 38?
I will
at this
Google
point,
it.
If one of you guys want to look that up for me, it's something like that.
I got it.
He's 36 years old.
He's 36. Okay. So I was off by a year. Fair enough.
But he'll turn 37 on May 17th.
Okay, so we'll say it's 37. By the time the season starts, he'll be 37. $49 million against the cap. Didn't have that great a year last year. You guys still don't have that great offensive line. Now he's going to be playing without Calvin Ridley for the next year. So barring you guys getting any kind of weapons in free agency or in the draft, you guys are basically giving him a barren wasteland of an offense. So here's my question to you guys. If you are the Atlanta Falcons, do you cut Matt Ryan and just start your rebuild?
Yeah, I mean, I'm all for it. Uh, yeah, I don't see us winning anymore with him at quarterback. I mean, our line is not good. We know this. I know you've told me 1,000 times, Tyler Lopes. But even when our line was solid this year at times, I mean, there were games when it was atrocious, but every team has their games where they're playing well. He still can't make the deep pass. Like, he still struggled with getting the ball down the field, and this allows teams to just, hey, we're gonna totally take away your run game and just make Matt Ryan beat us. And I mean, he threw for 20 touchdowns, 12 interceptions, almost 4,000 yards. But I mean, that's not a terrible season by any means. But I mean, there's many times where he did not give us a good chance to win a ball game. I mean, I don't say he's losing us ball games. He's more of a game manager now, though, like Alex Smith was, you know. So I think it might be time to move on from him and maybe draft a quarterback. And if this is not the year you decide to do it, you get somebody and let Matt Ryan play another year, all right, and let that quarterback learn from him, and then say, all right, Matt, you done a great job, but we're going to go a different route. So,
yeah, this was the first year watching the games where I really realized how far Matt Ryan had declined. Because he was never like, the superstar that you see all the highlights of Mahomes and Rodgers have, but he was just consistently good. He wasn't flashy, but he was good. And this was the first year where I saw him, like, make, I don't think it was the wrong decision, but he just couldn't execute it the way he used to do it. I've been kind of in the boat with Bruce's second idea there of drafting somebody and letting them sit behind Matt Ryan for a year and kind of learn, because say what you will, Matt Ryan is a good game manager still in my eyes. And he can help, develop a young QB. I don't really know if, like, this year, looking at the QB draft prospects, though, that any of them really pop off the charts as like a clear replacement. Obviously not immediately, but even with a year under, there's nobody that really strikes my eye as like, that's our guy of the future. But I'm more open to that idea than just cutting him and committing to that full rebuild, because I think there's a lot of things that, a young QB can learn from him.
Yeah, and I think this is the perfect time for me to look you both in the virtual eyes here and to tell you this right now, what you are dealing with is exactly what I said last year. You guys both looked at me and said, they need to draft Kyle Pitts. And I said, no, because you either need to draft a defensive player or, and hopefully you guys remember this and know that I'm not lying to you now with the benefit of hindsight, but I said, what you really should do is you should trade back and take a quarterback. Because last year's quarterback class, I mean, obviously they didn't play when they actually got on the field. They didn't play amazing. Trevor Lawrence didn't have a good year. Zach Wilson didn't have a good year. Justin Fields didn't have a good year. Mac Jones had a pretty solid year, but it wasn't anything crazy. But quite frankly, the quarterback class of last year was a lot better. Even Davis Mills, who was taken in the third round, had to go into Houston with no talent whatsoever. And he was the second best quarterback in the draft. He played pretty. I mean, he had some games where he was awful, but he's a rookie, 3rd-round rookie. Wasn't supposed to be ready to start right away, but he looked very well. He looked very good, honestly. So to me, I looked at last year. I looked at your team and I said, you either got to go defense and offensive line the whole draft and bet on Matt Ryan for the next 2 or 3 years, or you have to draft a quarterback now, because even then, I knew that last year's quarterback draft was way better than this one, and it's really panned out that way. You got Malik Willis, you got Kenny Pickett, you got maybe Matt Corral, even though he didn't perform at the combine. That's it. Desmond Ridder might be a 2nd-round guy. That's it. I mean, after that, it's a real drop-off. So now you guys are stuck with a $49 million cap hit at quarterback that you either have to cut and have nobody behind him, or you have to keep and really just screw your guys' cap of being able to keep free agents next year. That's what I was telling you guys. But no, I had to get the 2 touchdowns that Kyle Pitts scored last year, or else the world was going to end.
How did Sam Howell do in the combines?
He underperformed a little bit. I know that he didn't do a whole lot. Like there's like a whole bunch of different drills that guys do. He didn't do a ton of those drills, but he interviewed very well. He came across as very smart. I think he's the one that did the Steve Mariucci quarterback interview thing. He did very well, and obviously he's got a good, strong arm, and he played reasonably well for North Carolina last year. So I could see him being a potential fit in Arizona. But, to me, I would have rather bet on somebody like a Mac Jones. You guys could have easily traded back and gotten Mac Jones last year. He fell all the way to 15. I mean, you're telling me that you couldn't have called up one of the guys that traded up, like the Chicago Bears, or, like the Giants, or somebody like that traded up anyway. Could have gotten additional draft picks, and you could have gotten your future quarterback. That's what I figured you guys should have done last year. But Sam Howell's a good quarterback. I like him. I was kind of hoping that he would have played a little bit better, because I was kind of thinking he was probably going to be a 1st-round draft pick this year, considering the weak quarterback class. But Kenny Pickett kind of filled the role that I thought Sam Howell would fill, where he just played so out of his mind that he jumped up draft boards. So, yeah. But all right, so that was awesome. And with that, kind of speaking on the draft, I know that you guys said, and I sincerely appreciate it. You guys did a little bit of research on the mock draft, coming into this. So obviously, if you guys don't have enough information to answer this question, that's totally fair. But with the way that your guys' team is structured right now, where do you think the Falcons should go with their number 8 pick in the draft? Who do you think that they should draft at number 8, ideally, right now?
What's hard about 8 is it can be difficult to who all is going to be left after 8 picks, because having 7 picks before, anything can happen. I would be, obviously there's a bunch, based off the mock drafts that I've seen, there's a lot of good talents with edge rushers.
Yep.
And if any of them are left that are up there, Hutchinson, he won't be around at 8. I know that. If Oregon's guy somehow falls that far, either of them go that far,
honestly,
not to take them.
Honestly, I could actually see that now. I've said before on my podcast, and I've said a few times, that I think Kayvon Thibodeau is the most talented and the best player in the draft, but he has had kind of the issue of character and work ethic and everything like that, going into the combine, and people in his interviews asking how much do you care about football? Is this your number 1 priority? And he actually said in an interview that he was kind of tired of answering that question, because his work ethic's coming into question. But then at the combine, after he ran the 40, he stopped doing all the drills. He said, it's been he literally said his reasoning was because it was a super long day and he didn't want to underperform. Well, okay, but so does everybody else had the same exact long day that you did. So it's not like it's a unique challenge. Everybody's on the same level. So like you have that, and you have people questioning your work ethic, and then you still go and do that. Like that's not a good optic for sure. So I would have said it's nuts for Kayvon Thibodeau to drop to 8. But now I could honestly see it. So if you could get Thibodeau at 8, that'd be crazy. I think you guys should go more Trayvon Walker, but that's just me. But Brucey, what do you think?
Okay, so I'm just looking at the draft order. You got the Jaguars; they don't need a QB. The Lions, they sort of do need a QB. I mean, they have Jared Goff, right?
Yep.
Not great. I mean, they probably won't take one right there if I had to guess. The Texans, they have, like we said, Davis Mills, but are they sold on him?
They still have Deshaun Watson too. Don't forget.
Yeah, I don't. Well, sorry, guys.
I mean, I'm not wrong. They still do have him. I don't know whether he's going to play again.
Right. I don't know if he'll ever play again.
Yeah. Sure.
The Jets, they got Zach Wilson, who I think is going to be all right. He just needs some help. The Giants, are they sold on Daniel Jones?
I sure hope not.
And then you got the Panthers. Is Sam Darnold really going to be your guy? And then you have the Giants with another pick before the Falcons come up. There's a lot of quarterback needs for that. And this mock draft I'm looking at actually has Malik Willis going to the Falcons, which blows my mind, sort of. But
I think. Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
I think there's going to be I think the best quarterback in the draft will get picked before the Falcons have a chance to even pick. I really do believe that. I would love Malik Willis. I think he's going to be pretty solid. I think he's really good. Like, why was he at Liberty? But I think he's solid. And I honestly think Kenny Pickett's pretty solid. That man carried Pittsburgh.
I was going to say, I'm a much more than I am Willis.
He really is good. And him to learn for a year under Matt Ryan, I think Kenny Pickett learning under Matt Ryan could be awesome. I think Kenny Pickett possibly could fall to them. But if they can't get the guy they want at quarterback, all right, whoever it is, you gotta go get offensive line. You got to. So
I gotcha. Yeah. So I don't know if you guys saw. I actually did a pre-combine mock draft last week, so it just came out a little while ago, and I actually had you guys taking George Karlaftis out of Purdue. And the reason why I had him going that high was because he's not that guy that's going to be super flashy, but he consistently gets pressure. He has great technique, and he's a guy that's going to be there for you. He's going to give you some consistency, and quite frankly, you could take an Ojabo, you could take somebody like that that's going to be more of a higher ceiling, lower floor type player. But I think for you guys on your defense, you just need somebody that's going to be, even if they're not going to possibly be a 20 sack guy, like a guy that's going to be a 10 sack guy every year. I think you guys would probably take that. But I do agree with you now that, things are kind of, the way the combine went and everything. I think offensive line is probably what you guys are going to end up with, because I think a lot of the edge rushers just balled out during the combine. And I think a lot of them are going to go a lot earlier than I think we all anticipated. And so, Brucey, for your concern, I truly believe that not only is Malik Willis going to be available at 8, I think that they're both going to be available at 8, because, I understand that the Giants may not be sold on a quarterback. The Panthers may not be sold on a quarterback. I just still don't think that Malik Willis or Kenny Pickett are worth going that high.
And they
to be taken top 3, 4, 5. They're not. They're with the other guys in this draft. They're not that. They're not
I
that
agree. Good. And honestly, the Giants, a team like that, they need way more than a quarterback right now.
Yeah.
Daniel Jones. I mean, he has shown like some potential here and there in some games with his legs, at least. But he literally never has anybody out there. His wide receiver core is supposed to be really solid this year with Galladay and Shepard and
Kadarius Toney.
Him. And I thought there was another one too. And they were never on the field. Galladay was hurt all year. Shepard was hurt. I mean, it was Slayton, Darius Slayton, I think.
Darius Slayton.
Right? Yeah, he had a pretty solid year at times, but there's nobody out there to help him. And Barkley, he's never healthy, and when he was this year, they just took him out of the game and made Daniel Jones beat him with nobody. So I don't think he's that bad, honestly. There's a lot more needs that team needs than a quarterback right now. So I can see that.
Gotcha. Okay, so do you have a final verdict on a specific person that you would pick? Each of you, like Brucey, are you like Malik Willis? That's where you think that they would go?
I don't know, man. I personally, I think they would go Willis, right? I'd rather have Pickett.
Me too.
I'd rather have Pickett. I mean, that dude's a gamer, man. And I'll be honest with you, the fact that Willis played at a school like Liberty it sort of scares me a little bit, like how's it going to translate to the NFL? And it might be just fine, I mean, Joe Flacco didn't play FBS. He was an FCS quarterback for Delaware, and he did just fine, and Carson Wentz, even, I mean, he's not the same he was, but he did just fine there for a couple of years, so you never know. So but I definitely would rather have Kenny Pickett.
Okay.
Yeah, I would love Pickett. I don't see Pickett falling to 8 personally. I don't see the Giants and the Panthers passing on him. But
I can see the Panthers taking him.
If Ojabu or the Oregon guy, I don't know how to pronounce his last name. I'm sorry, I've only read it.
Thibodeau.
Yes, if either of them fall to 8, I say we got to take them. If not, play it safe, get offensive line, because that's definitely a need for us, and we can't ignore it forever.
Gotcha. Fair enough. All right. So I was gonna ask, are you guys team Malik Willis or team Kenny Pickett? But I feel like you guys are both in agreement. You're probably both team Kenny Pickett, I would say, based on.
Yeah,
I would say.
So that's awesome.
I'd almost go as far as I'd rather have Matt Corral than Malik Willis.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
Bruce's opinion on that too.
Okay.
You agree with that?
I do.
Wow. Yeah. I mean, yeah, I think Corral is solid. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that they're both probably a little safer. But Malik Willis, Malik Willis is definitely a project for sure, but I think he's probably the most like just raw ability quarterback in the draft. Maybe other than maybe a Desmond Ridder, who's just a freak athlete. But yeah. I definitely agree with you. I've been very outspoken on the podcast. I think Kenny Pickett is the best quarterback in the draft, but I also don't think he's going to be the first quarterback taken in the draft, because I honest to God think somebody's going to fall in love with Malik Willis. Because let me tell you, I saw Malik Willis work out at the combine. He quite frankly didn't look that impressive to me. He looked a little bit sluggish in terms of he was very rugged, very stiff. He didn't look comfortable, but then he just unloaded a 65-yard ball and everybody was like, oh my gosh. And I'm like, okay, well, yeah, he's got a strong arm, but so does Carson Strong. And everybody said his combine stunk. Carson Strong did the exact same thing that Malik Willis did. And everybody was like, oh, Malik Willis. And Carson Strong, they were like, he had a terrible combine. And it's like, what?
You see,
this doesn't make sense.
Willis is with these toolsy quarterbacks, they fall in love with. Like you would say, Pat Mahomes was a toolsy quarterback that had a lot of work to do, but we could definitely see his arm was elite. And I know I talked to you, it was you, Lopes, that, said you watched him in college and was like, that boy is going to be something one day.
I was not one of those people that believed he was a project. I legit said if he's drafted to the right team, he might be the best quarterback in the NFL coming out of college. And I was right, which is scary because I'm never right.
And another similar comparison that I'm seeing being thrown around Malik Willis is Lamar Jackson. And Lamar is just genuinely quicker than Malik Willis is. And I was in love with Lamar Jackson from the second I saw him. I think he tore apart FSU. And he had a one coming out game. And I was like, that he is, I don't know if he can be, if he's big enough to be a quarterback, but I'm rooting for him, so hard. If nothing else, he's way too fast to, not be something. I don't think Willis has the arm of Mahomes that has the potential for his arm to grow to that or his feet to be as good as Lamar's. He's just, I don't know. I just don't see, he's way too much of a project. There's way too many things he needs to improve on.
I understand.
He's taken as a enticing project to take. A risk.
Gotcha. Yeah, and I think this is a good time for me to tell you guys a funny story about what I told my parents during that draft when Lamar Jackson was in the draft. I looked at my dad, and my dad had heard about this kid from Louisville that everybody was falling in love with, and I said I wouldn't take him in the 4th round. I hated Lamar Jackson coming out of college. I looked at and let me explain why. I'm not telling you I was correct. I was clearly very wrong. As I said earlier, I'm usually very wrong with these things. But I looked at it and I was like, listen, guys like this that are very inaccurate in college, that don't have the strongest arm in the world. I mean, the guy basically beat up college with his legs. And the last time I saw a very inaccurate quarterback who beat everybody in college with his legs was Vince Young. And so I was like, he's Vince Young. He's a skinnier Vince Young. That's the way I looked at it. And I was of the firm belief that there is only one quarterback that will ever be very inaccurate and beat everybody with his legs and blow up the NFL, which you guys should be very familiar with him. His name is Michael Vick. He's the only one. But then all of a sudden, Lamar Jackson, I will admit, when he was drafted to the Ravens, I said, that is the perfect team for him. He might actually be okay if he's there. And lo and behold, he's the only other quarterback other than Michael Vick that I have ever seen just be so absurdly athletic that he's better than everybody else. It's like, okay. But yeah, so that's definitely, one of my worst and least proud takes that I've ever had on a quarterback coming out of the draft was I was like, he's going to be such a bust. It's going to be awful. He's not but yeah. So anyway, go ahead.
I'm looking at a website right now, and those 3 quarterbacks we were just talking about, they get a little comparison, like NFL comparison. I thought it was pretty cool. Kenny Pickett says, Joe Burrow light. It says Matt Corral, stronger armed Jalen Hurts, and Malik Willis, smaller Josh Allen.
Wow, they really hate Matt Corral.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Wow.
Oh no, poor Matt Corral.
And then poor Carson Strong, NFL comparison, Jared Goff.
No, that's we don't want that. Whenever you see your name next to Jared Goff, you never want that.
Sam Howell, more polished Josh Dobbs.
Oof.
Oh
boy.
Oh, man. That's tough.
Oh, that's rough, man. Oh gosh. Okay. So with all of that being said, I want to move on to something a little bit more fun, a little bit more personal. Obviously, I said at the beginning of this, Andy Riley, pitcher for the Johnson University Royals, Bruce, head coach of the Johnson University Royals. And as you can see, former Johnson University Royal right here. So I wanted to just take a little bit of time to, wrap up the podcast. I wanted to kind of, let's all just kind of participate in something fun here. I want us to talk about our favorite moment from each of us. So, like, I will talk about my favorite Coach Bruce moment and my favorite Andy Riley moment. And then Andy will talk about favorite Coach Bruce moment and my moment, whatever the case may be. And we'll kind of go in turns here. I will start, if that's all right, just to kind of so you guys can kind of see how this goes.
I'm terrified.
I'm going to do my favorite Coach Bruce moment. And Coach Bruce, I don't even know if you remember this one. So it was my sophomore year. So Andy, our sophomore year, obviously, you're, not your second senior year, your second, right? So to kind of give background to this a little bit, Coach, head Coach Fair, obviously, he at the time, he called me in the middle of the summer, and he was very worried, apparently, that I was just going to leave, that I wasn't going to come back, because freshman year was very, very, very bad in pretty much every way for me. But he called me and basically said, I need a second baseman, and I think you're the guy that's going to win the job. If you come back, you have a good shot of being the starting second baseman opening day. And Brucey, obviously, you came on to the program at that time, and I was at second base for the whole fall and everything, and I truly felt that I had earned the starting job. Now, whether that's true or not, whether I really did earn it, that's up for you guys to decide, obviously. But I didn't start opening day, and I was not very happy about it. And so when I got to Toccoa, and my name was not in the starting lineup when we were starting batting practice, I was a very, very, very mad person. Like, I was just angry, man. I was so convinced that I had won that job and when I didn't, I was not happy. And you were throwing BP, Brucey, and it was my first round. And to give context, I had just seen that I was not starting, like legit, like 2 minutes before that. And I was so mad that I was swinging as hard as I have ever swung in my life. And I'm not a power hitter. I never have been. I could barely hit the ball 150 feet most days. But on this day, I had old man strength. I don't know what happened that day. But you were throwing BP, and I slowly started hitting the ball farther because I was just getting more and more angry as I kept swinging. And then I finally hit one out like almost dead center at Toccoa in BP. And I remember, Brucey, you turned around and saw the ball, and then you did this. I'm going to do it for you so that you know what I saw. This is what you did. Like, you just kept looking back at the fence and back at me like you had just seen a ghost. And I literally looked back at you and I went, like, I was just like, yeah, Like, I was so angry, but just your face, like you were like, you couldn't believe that I had hit one out. And quite frankly, I couldn't believe that I had hit one out either. Internally, I was just like having a party on the inside, but outside, I had to be like, in my mind, I was like, I'm just so mad. I have to just stay being pissed off right now. And there's no, so that's so my funny favorite Coach Bruce moment. And it was very early on. It was just I still think
I don't even remember that. I really don't. That's great. That's good stuff.
So either of you guys want to go? I don't want to do both of mine.
You got it. You finish up. Yeah, it was good. I want to hear Andy's from you now.
Okay, well, Andy, you should know this one. This one's pretty easy. Junior year, you saved my life, buddy. So Bruce, you might not know this, but I think maybe Kevin talked to you about it after. I'm not sure, but obviously we all know I had a torn labrum at that point. So pitching every day I wasn't pitching every day, but like throwing every day, pitching as often as it was a struggle a lot of times. And the way my arm kind of functioned was, if I threw the day before, even it wouldn't matter if I threw 100 pitches or one, my arm would feel exactly the same amount of pain usually, with like some additional soreness if I threw more. But quite frankly, it was pretty bad no matter what. And I had thrown a lot that week, and we were playing on a Saturday, and I think I had thrown the day before, I can't really remember, but all I knew is that like I woke up that morning and my arm was at my feet. Like I had my arm was dead. And I came to the field and Kevin was, asking me, "How's your arm, man?" And I was like, "It's like a 2 out of 10. Like it's gone. I have no arm." And we played the first game. I didn't play. Second game comes around. It's like the fourth inning ish, and Andy's on the mound. And I don't know, Andy was struggling or something. And you, Brucey, looked at me and said, "Lopes, go get warm." And I gave you a look as if you had just shot my puppy. Like I was like, "Please, literally anybody but me, I'm dead, please." And I couldn't say that to you because I didn't want to, be a wuss and not go in. But so I reluctantly I grabbed the baseball, I went down to the pen, and this sucker right over here, Andy Riley, I don't know if it's true or not. This is what Andy has told me. I'm sure it is true. He looked and saw me knowing how bad my arm was and went, "No, I'm finishing this game." And then he just started shoving. Like I have never seen Andy pitch that well. And he just started absolutely dominating. And he finished that game. He got his first win. He got his first save or whatever it was. And I just ran out there after the game and I was like, "Thank you, Jubal. Thank you." Like I was just so happy that I didn't have to pitch.
Oh my. Yeah, that was the first win. It's a good memory.
That was so, dude. You might have been happy that day, but there was nobody that was happier than me. Trust me.
Oh yeah, I was happy. You were like in tears.
Oh yeah, dude. I was dead. I was like, if I throw today, I don't think I can finish the season. Like I was completely done. And just so you guys know, I don't know if I've said this to you guys before, but genuinely, if COVID had not happened, I don't know if I would even be able to use this. Like I was in so much pain by the time we got there. Like that last game when I started, my back was hurting so bad because I was actually overcompensating because I couldn't use my shoulder that there was a moment after the game where I was laying in the driver's seat of my car debating whether I should go to a hospital because my back hurt so bad. And I just looked at Tracy and I'm like, I don't know how I'm going to finish the year. Like I am in so much pain. I don't know what I'm going to do. And then COVID obviously cut the season short and it was really crappy and I didn't want that to happen. But in hindsight, looking back, it's like, oh man, like, I don't know if I'm able to make a full season. So, yeah.
That kind of ties into my favorite Tyler Lopes story. So I think I'm going to go ahead and share this one. So this is last year, your senior year, my first senior year. Right. And, obviously labrum was torn, you went through a very long recovery process, you worked your tail off. And then, you're getting your chance. You're going to get a start at Bryan. It was big, you know exactly which story I'm telling. So,
I know this one.
Bryan, a good hitting team. Bass Cooper took me about 800 feet to left field when I saw them on my birthday. And here's Tyler Lopes walking in there throwing basically, he's giving it everything he's got.
You can say it. I'm throwing 11. Like I can't. It's okay.
He's throwing 11 miles an hour if he gives an Andy Riley grunt and throws with everything he's got. And his curveball is probably like 2 at this point. It's slow, but your first inning, and you've got, I want to say it was like their 7th year senior is up.
Yeah.
And you throw a disgusting 52-mile-an-hour curveball. He swings over it, misses. It's incredible. The dugout is going wild. And as you're walking off the field, Mr. Lopes, what did you yell?
That's right. Daddy's home.
You just yelled, "Daddy's home." And I was going out to, congratulate you. And I changed my direction. I ran out to Kevin and Levi in the bullpen. I said, Lopes just said daddy's home. And
That was hilarious.
that was, I think it's my favorite moment because I know you had to have been preparing kind of in your head to an extent what would happen if you mowed him down.
So, okay. I want to give a little context to that just for like 30 seconds.
Go ahead.
Because I'll tell you this. So I'm a huge wrestling fan, right?
Right.
And so there was a wrestler that was very, very popular at that time. He still is, not quite as much. He's not as prominently featured on television, but there was a wrestler by the name of Tommaso Ciampa. And at the time, he had just come back from a very long, very brutal injury, just like I was coming back from. It wasn't a shoulder injury, it was a neck injury, but it was a very long process. And when he came back, he went right after the title belt on NXT, and he called it Goldie when he had the belt before he got injured. And so when he came back, he yelled, "Goldie, daddy's home." And of course, all the fans in NXT loved him so much, they started chanting, "Daddy's home, daddy's home, daddy's home," right? And so every time he'd wrestle, at some point, inevitably in the match, somebody would be chanting "Daddy's home." And so as I'm like contemplating like me coming back from injury, I would legit have dreams of people chanting that. And I was like, I would never say that in any context. It would never make sense. But I kept having, and so for some reason, and I will never know why it came to me in the moment, but for some reason, when I struck that guy out, the only thing that was in my brain that I could say was "Daddy's home."
Daddy's
For
home.
better,
You
for
said-
worse, whatever. That's just what happened.
Good
You
stuff.
said, I love you forever for it. That will most likely be a very difficult story to ever top. And then
That's great.
my favorite Bruce story I'm going to go
Oh
to.
God, I'm terrified.
Actually, it's actually really sweet, Bruce. It was
Okay.
junior year, my junior year. Granted, we had a lot of people, transferred in, or we had some talented recruits, and Andy Riley kind of pushed to the back a little bit, and understandably so. Like, I wasn't as consistent back then as I think I'm growing to be. And there were a bunch of, new people that, came in, and, I kind of got pushed back, and it was understandably so. Like, Mally was undisputably, like, the same pitcher I was, just more proven. There was Chase Bewley, who threw gasoline and ate pudding, and, I can't compete with that.
Nanner pudding.
Nanner pudding. Papaw had a stage where he was filthy before his arm said no. And Andy kind of got pushed to the back there, and I was beginning to feel like some people had forgotten about me. And then the thing happened where I got the win in relief, saved Lopes, and that pushed to me getting a start in the Smoky Stadium against Union, and I was a tad nervous because the only thing that I'd heard about Union was that they were really, really good. They were a top 25 NAI team, and here I was a mediocre pitcher that was came off one good outing. So I was like, I don't really know how this is going to go. And but when I went to the Galley for brunch that day, because it was on a Monday, I remember that. Bruce was the first person. He saw me in line. He comes out there and he's going all over. He's like, "Oh, you're going to shove today. I believe in you. I cannot wait. I'm so happy you have this opportunity." And I'm like, "Buddy, Union's good." And we're starting, for the most part, all of our second stringers. And he just was like, "So what? You're Andy Riley. You're going to shove." And even like the whole time leading up to it, Kevin, Lopes, Drew, they're all like, saying this similar thing. I'm just kind of like, no. I'm like, no. But warming up, Bruce does the same thing to me before I go out to, throw long toss and warm up bullpen. I'm like, okay, sure, why not? And then, I defied everything I thought was possible. And, I threw good. After I struck out, I think I struck out their best hitter in that first inning. I blew what used to be, low 80s fastball past them. We're not there anymore. But, blew a fastball by him, and Bruce was the first person popping out of the dugout. It was so heartwarming because it was just the first time I'd ever had a coach, put that much faith into me. And, it helped me, I think, grow into, I like to think that was a big defining moment and, helping me turn into the man I am today. And I got Brucey.
Hey, fun fact about that game. That was my first game coaching third base.
It was your first game coaching third.
It was, yep.
Fun fact. And I do have to say, another one of my favorite moments with Brucey, it's a combination of a bunch of small ones. Like, I had never really played third base before. Like, I played a couple innings in high school. I played, a couple of games in like AAU ball at third base, but I had never played third base as like my spot like that. I didn't have a lot of experience. And those few games at the Smoky Stadium where I had first started to play third base my sophomore year when you were there, like, I just was like, I had no idea what I was doing. I had no idea where to be in certain positions. I had no idea what to look for. I had no idea the mechanics. And you constantly were just on that end of the dugout, just saying, hey, man, just, do this, stand here, just be ready, just relax. Like you were there as like, it was almost like you were in my ear, like as an earpiece. Like I didn't even have to look at you. Like you were just like I could just hear you from the dugout, like just kind of coaching me up. And it wasn't like overbearing or anything like that. Like it was like I needed it. And so and you didn't have to do that. Like you could have just said, he's in college, you'll figure it out. But you didn't. You chose to like, because you played third in college, you chose to be there to help. And so that was, I genuinely appreciate that, because let's be honest, I stunk at third, but I would have stunk way more if you were not there. So
hey,
you weren't a bad third baseman at all.
My memory of you at third base was me throwing a middle fastball and then turning it, hitting 150 miles right at your face, and you'd catch it. And I'd be like, I'm so sorry.
Oh my God. Okay. I don't know if you remember this, Bruce, but we were at, what was the old, what?
It was Alice Lloyd first, right?
No, it was Alice Lloyd second. It was Hawassi. Hawassi was first. No, you're all right. It was Alice Lloyd.
No, it was Alice Lloyd, then Hawassi.
You're right. Yeah. You're right. So it was Alice. He came in relief against Alice Lloyd, and first pitch he throws is just a 100-mile-an-hour missile right at my face. And luckily, well, it wasn't quite right at my face. It was like here. So I just kind of was like that. And then, he starts that weekend against Hawassi. And I walk up to him and I said, hey, try not to kill me today. And he goes, I got you, bro. And again, first pitch he throws is even harder somehow and this time it's right here, like at my forehead. And I just go like this, and I walk up to him and I'm like, Andy, what the heck, man? And he looks me dead in the eyes and goes, I had my fingers crossed, man.
God. That's funny.
That's a great moment too. That's awesome. But all right, Brucey, floor is yours.
Okay. I'll start off with Andy, since it's your show. I'll finish with you.
Oh, thank you.
Gosh, there are a lot of hilarious Andy Riley stories.
Oh, good Lord.
That I will not discuss. I will say I'm gonna give you a funny one and a serious one. Okay. My funny one is watching Andy Riley get an AB at Kentucky Christian and striking out on 3 pitches. It was hilarious. Absolutely hilarious. Then to watch Clay Turpin get hit by the pitch and get the rally going. But that was an absolutely hilarious moment for me. But I'd say my favorite Andy Riley moment is this year when he pitched against Pikeville. He heard me and Chad talking, and after that, it was just, man, he was locked in, baby. He was locked in. He gave up a leadoff triple. I mean, Lopes, this was an absolute shot too. But and then the next batter gets a hit, and then he does not allow a hit until the top of the 7th with 1 out. And we won 10-1. I don't even think you had that many strikeouts either. I think he had 1 strikeout. I do.
5.
You had 5? No. Well, my bad.
Sorry, I did slightly better.
Yeah, but that was a pretty cool Andy Riley moment.
That's awesome. I genuinely wish I could have been there.
Yeah, he shoved. But anyways, Mr. Lopes.
Oh no, I'm so scared as to what you're gonna say. I don't know what's gonna happen.
Well, my funny favorite moment of Tyler Lopes is always in the dugout. Just absolutely just the funny stuff you say was this always got me, especially when you'd say I gotta pee. Got me every time. Got me every time. All right. But my favorite all-time favorite moment of you is, and you know what I'm gonna say. I already know you know. It was against Toccoa Falls. All right. This man he's playing third, actually. He's playing third, lays out for a ball. He catches it. All right. Umpire said hit the ground. This is the closest since I've been at Johnson that I thought I was going to get tossed. I thought I was tossed. And, I mean, I let the umpire have it. I did. And then, we're like down 3 runs. We have a little rally, and Tyler Lopes comes up with the bases loaded of all people, and gets a base hit, walk off, single to win the game, and that was. But it couldn't have happened to someone more deserving in that situation, because you went through so much in that year. And so that was super special for me. That was my first walk-off as a head coach, so it was pretty cool. And then I also, like, just throwing this in there too, just you getting to finish out your season on the mound, where it all sort of started for you, and just giving it all you had on that in that moment was pretty cool for me too. So
yeah, I will piggyback off that to say one of the first things that I remember Lopes saying, it was a testimony night at a Third South, and he said that he was going to play baseball until his arm was going to fall off. And I remember I was walking to the bullpen before he went, and I asked Lloyd, and I was like, Lopes, like, how you feeling? And the look he gave me, I could tell how much pain he was in. And 90% of the people that I know would have, 99% of the people I know would have just shut it down and said it's not worth it. But Tyler Lopes went out there, and he, with his last moment on a baseball field, he gave it everything that he had. You know what? He threw a decent inning with an arm that was barely, hanging on to his body.
Yeah, that was pretty.
And that's how I'll remember. Tyler Lopes as a teammate. He gave everything he had in him to go out there and compete. Everything he had.
Oh yeah.
Man, I appreciate that, guys. I don't deserve that. I appreciate it. I'll say this, like, I said it to the guys after the game, and like, so if there are any Johnson players watching, which I assume, given that you guys are on, and I hope that some of them will watch, it's the most important thing is never going to be, how many games you win and how well you perform in terms of your stats. And those are all great. You know, you always want to try and win. You always want to try and perform well. But the most important thing is always, always, always going to be how much effort you give when the battle lines are drawn. Now, I will never say that I was the hardest worker, you know, in practice or, you know, in my off time. I'm never going to make that claim because I've got, you know, this gentleman right here, Mr. Andy Riley, that outworked me every second of every day. Obviously, Kevin, another guy, Drew, another guy. You guys work laps around me. But, you know, for me, when the battle lines were drawn, you know, you give everything you have. And I was always raised, and, you know, credit to my mom and my dad, who I'm sure are going to watch this as well. You know, they always taught me from I was a little boy, you got to finish what you start. And if I didn't believe that I could finish that year, I would not have started it. That's just how I operate. And so, you know, the most important thing is always going to be, one, most important, how good of a teammate you are and how good of a person you are. And two, how hard how much you give when those battle lines are drawn, when that game starts, you know, and you know, your teammates look to you to give them something. That's what's always going to be the most important thing. So I really genuinely appreciate you guys saying those things. But all right. Well, I don't have any more questions for you guys. So now I suppose I will just, you know, if you guys have anything else that you want to talk about, I know it's getting late. I know you guys had a long day. For those of you who don't know, by the way, I don't know if this was mentioned earlier. I can't remember, but these guys had a doubleheader today. I mean, these guys, you know, they were willing to do this. And I told them multiple times, like, we can reschedule this. We could do it tomorrow. We can do it a different day. They wanted to do this tonight, and they stuck it out, and they're still up, and it's, you know, 1:30 in the morning here. So I sincerely, genuinely appreciate this so much. You did not have to go through all this much effort for me, but I really appreciate it. So, you know, if you guys have anything else that you would like to discuss with me while we're here, feel free. I can talk about sports all night. You know, I can talk about, you know, just our lives and just the memories that we have with each other all night. But if you guys just want to get some sleep, I think you guys have another game tomorrow, right?
Potentially, yes.
Potentially.
Okay. So yeah, I completely understand if you guys just want to call it a night, but I will leave that up to you guys. If there's anything else you want to talk about, feel free to bring it up.
Last thing I'll say is, Lopes, I still have not got my invite to your wedding.
I was waiting for you to say that. I was like, I feel like he's either going to say it right at the end or right at the beginning. He's going to say it at some point.
Still haven't gotten it.
Oh, man. Andy, it looked like you were trying to say something there. What were you trying to say?
Oh, I was just saying canopy.
Oh no!
Oh man!
No, I'm not even gonna try and explain that one.
Nope, no, we're not.
Those who know, and those who don't, ask them. I'm not.
I think
Lopes will put my Instagram right here.
We're good to end on that. That's a good
All
thing
right,
to end on right there.
What Brucey says goes. I guess we're going to end on that. But, you know, again, guys, thank you so much for doing this. Thank you so much for, you know, taking all this time and joining me today. I got to have you guys back on at some point.
I'd love to. Love to. This was a lot of fun.
Oh, yes.
Let's do it when the season starts. How about that?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, we'll definitely. I'll definitely work something out where we can do that.
And I would love to get maybe a guest appearance from old Cheeseburger Burt.
Oh Lord!
Gang up on him and his Yankees.
I'll do my best. I'll reach out and I'll see if I can. I'll see if I can get a hold of him or his wife. Somebody. I'll get a hold of somebody. So.
He'd have to get permission. So yeah.
There you go.
Yeah.
All right, fellas. Well, I won't keep you any longer. Thank you guys again. And again, I appreciate you doing this.
All right. Love you, brother.
All right. Love you guys too. See ya.
Yes. Take care, Lopes.
Hey guys, me again. I just want to say thank you so much for checking out the Lopes Goes Last podcast. It means the world to me that you decided to stick all the way to the end. That's super cool. So thank you again. And if you really, really like what you see, I'd love for you to subscribe, like the video, and share it with all your family and friends because, this is my passion project. This is what I love to do, and I really want the sucker to grow. And the only way that can happen is through you guys, is if you guys can help me out. So again, if you like what you saw, please subscribe, like the video, share with all your friends and family. That's the only way this is going to grow. And yeah, I'll see you guys next time.